The summit will be held on July 3rd and 4th in Astana of Kazakhstan. This major event, from that, we will have a number of bilateral meetings with the members and invited countries. Difference. In conclusion, I would like to stress once again that in today's very complex and difficult situation, we extremely need unbiased, well-balanced analysis by the representatives of expert community, including all of you who attend those Jubilee Primakov readings. So, quite sincerely, I would like to wish you every success in your work, and thank you for your attention.
I would like to thank Yury Viktorovich for his analysis of the current picture of agenda, and I would like to give the floor to the Deputy Vice Speaker of the Federal Assembly of the Russian Federation, Konstantin Kosachev. Just a moment, dear friends, I need to prepare. Distinguished Irina Borisovna and Evgeny Alexander Alexandrovich, counterparts, friends, I'm sure that for all of us it's a big pleasure, it's a big interest to take a part in Primakov readings, and for me, for sure, it's a great honor to be one of those who opens these readings. One of these sessions today, the first session, will be devoted to Evgeny Primakov, and there in details we will talk there about his input into the theory, practice of development of modern relations, because of course his input still remains. And now, in the frames of opening ceremony, I would like to come to the topic of our readings. It's rather wide, Russia in the global context, but I think that's very precise. Of course, global context has changed a lot, and that's why it is in need that not to have only a selfie with the ongoing events background, but we need to have a guideline where a lot will depend on Russia. There is such point of view that everything what is going on in the world with us is just one of many episodes in the human ship development. Every generation believes that the events which they see, it is very important, and it is the change of milestones. I don't agree that everything what we see is not different to what we saw previously. I think it's not just the change of decorations, but it's the change of timelines. Of course, it can be compared with the previous changes in the 20th century. I mean, rather new world systems, the first after the Second World War and the second after the Cold War. And I think if we compare by scale, it is the same. We can see the third timeline change, and we can have an opportunity to influence its modalities. The reality after the Second World War and aftershock impression of it was shaped by the countries who have won, and their aim was to avoid any war in the future, to avoid challenges from some certain countries to another. And at that time, in the UN Charter, as a leading principle I would like to underline it. It was stipulated the principle of equality of all states, countries, of all participants of the international relationships. And even the creation of UN Institute with permanent members, with a veto right of its members, stand against of speculations that it is inequality which was stipulated in UN Charter. I think it was the factor of attaining of great powers, and it was the sense which was put there by the country's founders, because some countries, they, of course, they are not equal by their capacities, potentials, and they need to be equalized there. That's why UN Council and the veto right are required for all the humanity. And the second, and after the Cold War, it was less romantic. It was not so calculated. Now we can see that Paris Charter for the new Europe, which we see is not active now, there also the equality right was stipulated, but there was not even a word about the military blocs. For example, there was not a word about the NATO. European Union was only mentioned about in the trade. And it was not so important with the background of great wealth in the world. Everybody was thinking that now everything will be good, and we remember the formula inter-bloc confrontation. But now we see that different groups will put different meanings into these words. We were thinking that the case is that the blocks disappear, and that's why these blocks will not confront with each other, but other side, as we see now, was thinking that the confrontation disappeared. So the confrontation to those who won, and least bloc need to disappear and don't need to be developed in the future. Why today? As I think there is an equal timeline change over the last 80 years, because no Yalta UN-centrical system has been fulfilled. No romantic system in spirit of a Paris Charter. Unfortunately, there is no word about blocks. There is no word about the mechanism which in real will provide equality for the countries when some of them will come into groups to provide some advantages for themselves. And today we can see the situation. Either the society will live according to some principle, the consolidation of the world and the strengthening of the weapon, instead of some agreements, the balancing on a nuclear threat, which becomes an asset of threat. And then we see that Ukrainian case is about it. We see the striving of the Ukraine when they got the free region, and they created this crisis along with other factors. Either we'll go to that path, or another deep, inclusive discussion will take place, which will be similar to the discussion which was in the war years and which was resulted in the UN creation. I think it's no alternative for this discussion, and the result, as President Putin has mentioned, and Yury to his statement to Federal Assembly, and then this thought was developed. It is required to shape a new contour of indivisible Eurasia. I would like to mention that there is no mention of some Eurasian organization to confront NATO or OSCE, which can return the power of blocs. I think the opposite Eurasian system of security in comparison with the current organization and, for example, the NATO alliance, it should be not in confrontation, but in its principles of creation of new system, which should be different from that principles on which the collective West were trying to create the security system for everyone, and where they failed. So what principles can be laid to that future model? As I believe, the principle should be like this: absence of common ideology or some liberal values which are not good for the countries of big majority and should be imposed on them. The absence of discipline and preserving of exposing their own positions and national interests. Sanctions, restriction, of course, only if we are not saying about the UN Security Council decisions. The full rejection of countries' jurisdiction on the third countries and restriction measures. Non-compliance with monopoly of every state. Every state should has such interpretation instead of imposing by the West so-called uniquely right system based on rules, because that the rules of neocolonialism. No admittance of coherence between the blocks with the head blocks, as we can see with NATO and AUKUS, and as we see in the OSCE and European Union platforms captured by NATO. I believe that today the mission of such platforms as Primakov regions is to create the intellectual shaping of security contour. It is well known that recently with in the meeting with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, they were shaped 5 points, and as a personal input to that mission and development of thesis of the President of Russian Federation, I would like also to add such ideas. The first, the light of President support of Belarusian proposal to create a charter of diverse and system development in the future. They can become a declaration on comprehensive declaration in 21st century, and meeting in Eurasia similar to the meeting in Europe. The second, to initiate the creation of convention on peace settlement in Eurasia and convention on reconciliation and arbitrage. It would become a very important step for the continents to solve issues by their own power without any third parties. The third, in the context of decision made by President to solve the security issues, and as a parliamentary member, I think it's important to develop the system in the Eurasian continent, maybe, for example, as annual meeting of parliament members on security issues, and later as a parliament assembly with a widening of mandate. Number 4, to create of ASEAN, SCO, CIS, the discussion on legislation, regulation of bloc activities, including the issues of limitation of activities of blocs on geography issues. These topics should be included into bilateral and multilateral guarantees of multilateral security of Eurasia. And the last one, the work on the empty house in charters of UN and comparison of right and, for example, example, the 51st article of UN Charter and making of preventive attack. In this work, the point for us will be the ideas of Evgeny Primakov, who can be considered as author of concept of multipolar world order. Today, I believe it's the time of Primakov, who was in a future of his time, and he has been a supporter of this romantic timeline change, and at that time China, India and Russia idea has become a base for the BRICS and the base for the multipolar system, and now we can see the phenomena of global majority is the consequence of this idea, and in the framework of this global majority we will be able to solve this issue, which was not able to be done by the West countries in the shaping of a new global context. That's why I would like to wish success to everyone. Thanks a lot.
I would like to thank full-heartedly Senator Kosachev for his comprehensive assessment of the perspectives for the Russian foreign policy. He is a very smart and famous expert. I would like to express my gratitude to President of the Russian Federation, Mr. Vladimir Putin, for his very good welcoming address and for multi-year support of the forum. It's impossible to overestimate the key role played by the organizer of the project and the aide to the president, Mr. Yury Ushakov, who is also ambassador extraordinary and plenipotentiary, who is a diplomat of the Primakov school. I would like to thank the sponsors who are major socially responsible Russian corporations and banks who fully realize the importance of this event. I would like to thank the Center for International Trade for multi-year organizational support, and I would like to thank our information partners. The coverage of the audience by the Primakov readings records is now 199 million people, and the people from the IMEMO Institute who did a great job in organizing the event. I would like to welcome the heads of the diplomatic missions here in Moscow who are in the room. I can tell you that over the 10 years of the Primakov readings, we have had more than 500 participants and guests from 133 countries of the world, and I would like to welcome the family members of the Primakov who are also in the room. We received very warm greetings from the President of the Russian Academy of Sciences, Mr. Krasnikov, and the Director of the External Intelligence, Mr. Naryshkin. In their remarks, they write that the dialogue between the scientists is very important, and in this context, the work which is done by the IMEMO Institute is very important, and the Primakov reading is a very important part of that. Mr. Naryshkin writes that thanks to the efforts by Mr. Primakov, we have unprecedented relations with China and India and Iran and many other countries. Mr. Primakov fully realized how important it was to pursue independent course, protecting our sovereignty and national interests. As you may know, the 10th Jubilee readings are dedicated to the Russian global context theme. Why we chose that topic? In the previous fora, we warned about the strategic miscalculations of the West, and it resulted in unprecedented sanctions war. We focused on the impossibility to continue with the unipolar world and the trade blockade. But in response, we receive only propaganda. They call us the gas station country, and that Russia will be defeated on the battlefield. And this point of view, the Washington leadership really believed that Russia was the declining power, and they could neglect the interests of the country. And so this strategic insanity is the product of the political culture of the West, and it's very much typical of the Anglo-Saxon tradition, and the result of misunderstanding of the shifts in the balance of forces in the 21st century. Russia is number 4 economy in terms of purchasing power per capita, and now they launched another narrative saying that Russia is about to attack Eastern Europe. But this is really not logical, that declining power cannot attack anybody. And this irrational perception leads to disappointment. And it was the case once when the West was appeasing themselves that in China they would come to political pluralism. We have a feeling that Western experts understand Russian realities less and less, and they look into a distorting rearview mirror. Of course, the main surprise was the fantastic resilience of the Russian economy. I can claim that not a single economy in the world, even the Chinese one, wouldn't have withstood such economic pressure. There are 3 explanations to that. First, is a result of very hard institutional reforms, but today we have self-sufficient, very much adaptive and very highly efficient economy. Then, since the government, federal regulator, the central bank have accumulated very valuable experience, and similar comes to business. Our economic subjects demonstrate that they have more resultive solutions to the problems than they have problems. So there was a miscalculation on the part of the West to isolate Russia. Russia is strengthening relations with China, with the BRICS countries, and we'll discuss it in more details in panel 2. I can tell you that the state visit by the Russian president to China allows us to say that political East is taking shape, not as opposition to the West, but certainly as an equal partner. And without its opinion, all talks about global security is just empty talk. Very few countries can develop 2 models of AI, but we have 2 companies who are doing that. And over the past 4 years, the average growth rate in this area was in excess of 10%. That's actually the record high. The contribution of high technology into the GDP is about 2%. We are building mega synchrothrones and colliders. Out of 10 million X-rays in Moscow, 50% are processed by AI, and by 40% the AI gives the prescriptions and diagnosis, and the time for such a diagnosis is just 90 minutes. We have longitude and latitude shipping routes, and we are developing and promoting the Northern Sea route, and it's really a lot. The economy copes with high key rate established by the Bank of Russia. The economic growth in 2024 is expected at the level of 3.4%, ahead of the United States and the European Union. So I can tell you that over the past 2 years, we have conducted a number of events. On 23rd, 24th, we held Primakov readings for the youth. We will hold the Eurasia conference in new format, and we will hold bilateral workshops in cooperation with the Institute of Economy and Politics of China. A couple of words on the session 5 of Ukraine. Today we are talking about the legitimacy of the Ukrainian leadership. I can tell you that for 20 years Ukraine has been the discord in the European in Europe. And the instrument, Ukraine has become an instrument of Euro-Atlantic, but Ukraine is not Czechoslovakia, who peacefully divided into a pro-Atlantic part with a capital in Prague, and Slovakia, which takes a different course. In 2014, the Ukrainian politicians succumbed to the pressure of the Polish delegation, and at that time a decision was taken, I think, to use Ukraine as anti-Russia and to block the partnership from Lisbon to Vladivostok. More so, we have an impression that the self-preservation instincts disappeared in Ukraine, and we can ask, is Ukraine a provider of European security for the past 2 years, or the opposite? And we will discuss it in more details, talking about the Ukrainian crisis and Eurasian security. I wish you all fruitful discussions, and thank you very much for your attention.